Hello everybody. Before the school closed for the summer vacations, we had started with the fiscal policy chapter. We'll continue with that chapter now. We had completed most of the chapter, but then a few little part of it was left out. We'll continue with that chapter today. But before we continue with the rest of the chapter, let us have a quick review of what we had done earlier. Meaning of the term fiscal policy. A policy under which the government uses the instruments of taxation, public spending, and public borrowing to achieve various objectives of economic policy. Taxation, public spending, money spent by government, public borrowing, money taken as loans by the government. To achieve objectives of economic policy, and the objectives of economic policy are economic stability, that means no inflation, no deflation. Okay, neither prices rise up very high nor does it fall down very low, a condition of stability for the country. Full employment, a condition in which those who are interested in working are working. Those who are interested in working. Those who are not interested in working, it's not the government's responsibility to provide jobs to them. Third, economic growth representing an increase in the per capita income. Fourth, price stability, that means prices remaining constant over a period of time. Now, prices remaining constant does not mean the same price over 1 year or 2 years. A slow rise in price is acceptable. There should not be a very high rise in the price or a sudden fall in the price. A little difference shows economic growth. Next one is reducing inequalities in distribution of income and wealth. Some earn more, some earn less. Okay, that difference needs to be reduced. Fiscal policy aims at reducing the difference between the income of the rich and the poor. And the last one is attaining external equilibrium. That means equilibrium in terms of exports and imports. Look, we are a developing country, so we need to borrow technology from the foreign countries which are costlier. But we are able to export consumer goods which are cheaper. As a result, generally, our exports are greater than our exports are lesser than our imports. Okay, we should try to bring in a condition of equilibrium. That means make our exports equal to our imports. Then we move on to the next one. The first instrument of policy, fiscal policy, is tax. What is a tax? It is a contribution from a person to the government. State means government here. Okay, why? To meet the expenses incurred by the state in common interest of all, without reference to special benefits conferred on any individual. That means government spends money on the welfare of the people. For that, whatever is spent, okay, for meeting those expenses, government wants people to make a compulsory contribution. That contribution is known as tax. Another part of the definition is without reference to special benefits conferred on any individual. It means if you are paying a tax of 500 rupees does not mean you will get a benefit of 500. You may not get that much. Okay, you may get less than that or you may get more than that, right? There is no link between what you pay and what you receive. Then, basically there are two types of taxes. One is direct tax and the second one is indirect taxes. Direct taxes are the ones, the incidence of which falls on the person who pays them to the government. For example, income tax. That means if I am supposed to be paying income tax, nobody else will pay for me. I will have to pay for it. I will have to pay it. Okay. Indirect tax means the taxes, the incidence of which can be shifted through a change in the price. That means a potato seller, suppose he purchases potatoes for 10 rupees and he sells it in the market for 15 rupees, thereby earning a profit of 5 rupees. In a particular year, the government started charging a tax of 2 rupees per kg on potatoes. Sales tax, that means the seller is supposed to be paying it, which implies that his profit will fall down from 5 rupees to 3 rupees because 2 rupees tax he has to pay to the government. Got it? Now here, what the seller will do in order to profit has fallen down, he will try to increase his profit somehow. What will he do? He will start charging 2 rupees extra from the consumers. That means instead of selling the product for 15 rupees, he'll start selling the product for 17 rupees. Okay, 2 rupees extra he earns, and that 2 rupees will be paid as tax. His profit remains constant. Okay, now the result here is, who should have paid the tax? Seller, but actually who paid the tax? Consumer. That means we have shifted the tax from the seller to the consumer. The taxes which can be shifted through a change in the price is known as indirect tax. Taxes which cannot be shifted are known as direct tax. Okay. Then some important terms before I want to show you some important terms. Impact, incidence and shifting of taxation. We had not discussed this earlier, so kindly go through it. Impact of a tax is upon the person who pays it to the government in the first instance. Incidence of a tax refers to the money burden of the tax who ultimately pays it. In case of income tax, impact is on the person. For example, I have to pay income tax. Impact is on me. Incidence is on me. But in case of sales tax, impact is on the seller. But incidence, who ultimately pays it, incidence is on the buyer. Okay. And shifting means passing on the money burden of a tax to another person. In case of indirect tax, impact is on one and incidence is on another. That means the tax could be shifted. Is the meaning clear, everybody? Then let's have a look at what is direct tax and indirect tax in greater details. Direct tax is a tax whose burden is borne by the same person on whom it is levied. The ultimate burden of the taxation falls on the person on whom it is levied. It is basically charged on income and property. Examples of direct tax are corporation tax, income tax, wealth tax, gift tax, property tax, etc. Next one, indirect tax. It is the type of tax which is initially paid by one individual, but the burden of which can be passed to some other individual who ultimately bears it. It is levied on the expenditure of a person. Examples are excise duty, sales tax, customs duty, value added tax, etc. Okay. Okay, then some more types of taxation. The first one is proportional taxation and the second one progressive. In case of proportional taxation, when the rate of tax remains constant with an increase in the income of the taxpayer. That means whatever amount of tax income a person earns, 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, whatever, rate of tax remains constant. Everybody pays the same rate of tax. 10% by a rich person, 10% by a poor person. Okay. In case of progressive tax, rate of tax increases as the income increases. A person earning 2 lakh pays 10% tax. A person earning 3 lakh pays 20% tax. A person earning 4 lakh pays 40% tax. Tax rate keeps on increasing. The next two types of taxes are regressive taxation and digressive taxation. In regressive taxation, the rate of tax decreases as the income of the taxpayer increases. It's just the opposite of progressive. Here, rate of tax increases as taxpayer's income increases. But in case of regressive, rate of tax decreases as the taxpayer's income decreases. Got it? Then, last one, digressive taxation. Digressive taxation means rate of progression in taxation does not increase in the same proportion as an increase in the income. Okay. Focus on the next sentence. In this case, the rate of tax increases up to a certain limit. After that, it remains uniform. For example, a person earning 5 lakh pays 10%. 6 lakh pays 20%. 7 lakh 30%. Anyone earning above 8 lakh, say 8 lakh, 9 lakh, 10 lakh, 11 lakhs, 12 lakhs, 15 lakhs, 20 lakhs, 25 lakhs, etc. pays 35%. So initially when the income increased from 5 to 8, the tax was increasing. After that, from 8 to 30 or 40, the tax remained same. So it is a combination of progressive and proportional. Progressive means initially increasing. Proportional means finally remains constant. Okay. The graph for progressive taxation will be upward sloping. The graph for proportional taxation will be a straight line parallel to the x-axis. The graph for regressive taxation will be downward sloping. And the graph for degressive, in this page, have a look at the graph for degressive taxation. Initially increases and then remains constant.